Welcome back to the Power Republic YouTube channel. Today's video we're talking KA carburetors. Welcome back to the Power Republic YouTube channel. Today's video is a shout out to Paddy. He asked a question about the KA100 carburetor, and so did a few other people out there in the community. So thanks heaps for all those questions. Running the two-stroke engines has never been that easy, but it's not as difficult as people will lead you to believe. So today we're going to debunk the KA100 Tillotson carburetor. So you can see here, this is the KA100 carburetor that we use here in Australia, and I believe in other parts of the world as well. Now this carburetor here has already been dyno tuned, and you can see that we've got a little mark here on the carby where the needles are set. Now you can sort of use that as a reference mark and then move the needle either side, this being richer and this being leaner, and that's about as far as you'll need to move them. Now the factory recommends one turn or 60 minutes on each screw. So if we screw this one in, this one's just come straight back from the wild. You can see that it was a bit less than one. Probably call that 55 minutes, half, and that's one turn there, and the line is at 55. And then for the low speed circuit, half, one, and just a tiny fraction over the one full turn open. So that's closed. So when you close the needles off for your reference, don't really screw on those needles super hard, because it is a tapered needle on a tapered aluminium seat. Now these are steel, the carburetor is aluminium. If you really screw those in, you can damage the seats a little bit. They'll just flare out. Also too, the needles are a very fine point, so you want to damage those either. So once you've screwed them in, it's time to open the jets back up. Like I said, the recommendation for these carburetors for the KA3 format is one turn and one turn, or 60 minutes, 60 minutes. This carburetor that's come off one of our racing engines has been set at 60 minutes on the low and 55 minutes on the high. And I'm going to show you how to use the minute gauge next. So this here is the Tillotson minute gauge or jet tuning tool, and it's got the graduations here on this this drum here, and you can set the reference point. They spin independent. So what you want to do is you want to marry up this line here with this here, and then that's sort of what you'd call your zero position. If you're finding these videos helpful, please consider subscribing, turning on those pesky notifications, or giving us a thumbs up. If you'd really like to show us some support, head on over to our Patreon page. If you don't know what that is, there's a link in the description below. So now turn the thimble here until the tool lines up with the jet of the carburetor. And you can see here our two blue lines are matching up with the little reference points. So if you hold this now and you want to open it up, so you want to go 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, 60 minutes. So the full revolution, or one turn out, is 60 minutes on this gauge. Now each line is approximately 2 minutes of the clock. So if you wanted to lean the carburetor out and you're at 60-minute mark, you could just lean it out like this or like this. That's 4 minutes. That's starting to get pretty lean from your standard position. You can see we've got the scribe line on the carburetor. So we're just going to put it back to its resting point, which is one turn open. And then if you wanted to richen it up, you could just turn it this way. And that's generally enough for the carburetor. I wouldn't recommend big turns like this when you're out on the circuit. The tuning is never out by that much. It's normally a few minutes this way or a few minutes that way. So it's a very fine adjustment. Okay, so that's the introduction to how to use a jetting adjustment tool from Tillotson on the Tillotson style carburetor. It is very fine adjustments. So when you're out on the circuit, what I recommend is grabbing the jet with these two fingers like this and holding the jet in the two fingers. And instead of just trying to turn your fingers, try to turn your whole wrist. So you put your fingers on, clamp down firm, and instead of trying to turn the jets with your fingers, clamp on firm and turn your whole wrist. And that way you'll get a much finer adjustment. When you're driving your go-kart, there's a lot of vibration, and it makes it really difficult to, one, reach down and feel the jets, and then two, make the very fine adjustments in either the richer or leaner conditions. So just remember, hold the jets nice and firm with your fingers and try to rotate your whole wrist instead of just your fingers. So now if you're to adjust your high-speed jet, make sure you rotate this little guy around until the lines match up. Now we're going to open this to 55 minutes. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 2, 4, and we're just going to go halfway between the 4 and the 6 there. Now what I would say, when you're tuning your KA100 carburetor, generally we leave the low speed jet set because they're normally pretty close, and then we just adjust on the fly a couple of minutes on the high speed jet as the engine gets fully hot or the tyres come up to temperature and the cart starts to lean out sometimes. You can just open up that high speed circuit. That'll get you out of 99% of your problems. If you are running KA4, you can change the combination of your jets. So you could open the low speed jet up to say 1 hour and 30 minutes or 1.5 turns, and then you could tune the high speed jet down so that you get nice linear acceleration all the way down the straight, and especially in the top end. And you can run those as lean as maybe 35 minutes or a little over half a turn on the high speed jet. What I do recommend is getting yourself a lambda sensor with a Micron 5 or an Easy Tune. The Easy Tune's excellent because it's got the lights, you can see it on the fly, and it really helps teach you what your finger positions do to the jets in real time. Whereas your Micron is better if Dad's doing it back in the pits, because you can download it to the computer and you've got all the time to analyze your data. You can put it up on the screen, really see where your cart's leaning out and getting too rich and all these sorts of things. And then you can make some adjustments, and that's where this tool really comes in handy. The second part of this video, we're going to be talking about the pop-off pressures. Now, we set the pop-off pressures around 10 PSI here at House of Power. Some guys like to run them lower, I understand. Some other guys like to run them higher. Is a little bit of track dependency, also to driving style, go-kart setup, yada, yada, yada. So there is a few variables. What I'd say, if you stay between 11 pounds as your maximum and 9 pounds as your minimum, you should be out of 99% of your problems. So this is a KartTech blow-off gauge, and you can see it's got 0 to 15 PSI. You can get 0 to 30 PSI gauges. Any pressure gauge will do. Piece of go-kart fuel line. And we're just going to put that onto the carburetor like so. Then we can check our blow-off pressure. So what I like to do is just hold it in my hand like so. Creep the pressure up. And you can see that one there is 10.5 or 10 PSI. So they do just pop off, and then they'll just rest and hold a bit of pressure. Now you can blow it off like that. It's got a little pressure relief valve here. So pump it up a couple of times and check it. Like I was saying, if you want to go leaner, you could pump the pump pressure up to 11 PSI. If you wanted to come a bit richer, you could bring it down to 9, even 8.5. And then your resting pressure will be a bit lower as well, or higher depending if you move up or down the gauge. But if you stay within the 11 to 9 pound range, you're pretty much going to be out of trouble everywhere you go. Okay, so there you have it, the KA100 Tillotson carburetor debunked. Thanks to all the people out there in the YouTube world, also to our Patreon subscribers. Don't forget, we've got the Racing Rituals out now. You can go and check that out on our Patreon page or through our website, www.powerrepublic.com.au. While you're there, grab yourself a t-shirt or a brand new Rotax Max race engine or Tillotson carburetor. Thanks for everyone watching. I'll see you in the next video.